I don't know the difference between right and wrong, only wrong and fun, which I don't know, just like really got me. It's, oh my God, what if there's only a problem between wrong and fun? There's no such thing as right and wrong.
That is so good. Welcome to the Radiant Woman podcast, where women learn how to become radiant, confident, and own the power and beauty of their sexuality, no matter their size, shape, age, or race. Your host is Tarisha Turok. Visit our website at www.radiantwoman.co.nz to join the Radiant Woman movement. I would love to have you with us. Welcome everyone to this episode, and today I'm so happy to talk to Nina Powell, and we've been knowing each other for quite a while, did some stuff together. And Nina, she's a healer and she's a guide who supports women to find clarity and power, right? So that women start to begin to live the life they deserve, they desire, that feels rightful, and how she says, wildly divine and orgasmic. So I'd love to ask you about that, Nina. And Nina does this by helping women to reconnect to their bodies, so we can start trusting ourselves, trusting our intuition. And so through working with Nina, women find freedom, they activate their spiritual gifts, they reclaim their lost power, and open to their sexual and sensual potentials. So welcome, Nina. So nice to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much. I love how you introduced me there. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So yeah, if we can just dive right in, and I wonder what you mean when you talk about wildly divine and orgasmic life.
Yeah, well, those were the words that really came to me. I was like, what is this energy that I'm bringing with people? Like, what is it that happens when they work with me? What is this like vision? And so for me, it's like that wildly is that like really rewilding, undomesticating yourself so that your conditioning and your trauma and like all this stuff that's not you gets transformed, transmuted, released, liberated, and you start to live more your own journey instead of the journey that's about that's very centered in this like survival thinking, like our fear around like what will happen if I leave my partner, I'll be all alone, or what will happen if I follow my dreams. Or so that wildly thing for me is that like trusting that part of you within, that actual part that gets shut down over time, and you feel this pull, like you have these impulses, and it's like learning to start to like trust these impulses that they're going to give you more life. It's like following the life force is also how I think of it. It's like a
And it moves
tree
through the
will
body,
grow to
huh?
light. Yeah.
It moves through the body, huh? It's not
All through the
the
body.
head thing, right? It's more the body thing.
It's the body. It's like totally the body. As we're talking here, I'm thinking like a tree will move towards the light. It just like naturally does. It doesn't have this mind that gets in the way and says, no, that would be not so sensible to move towards the light. I should stay in the dark and settle with what I have. It's like it naturally has this instinct. And so, yeah, the wildly part for me is very much around that, like through the body, that feeling, and like trust it, like learning to trust yourself and trust your instincts, that like those feelings that you have, and not let the mind take over and rationalize and talk you out of it.
We're so good at that, huh? Well, once you worked with people, what is the result of when women actually start to listen to that and that start to follow that? Because I'd imagine like lots of listeners like, oh, but that's a bit scary, right? Like what? But what's the result? What have you actually seen happen for women?
Well, as you're talking there, the first thing that comes up is around this like people pleasing that women do. So there's so often like, so for an example would be one of my clients in relationship and married for the odd years, and had got to this point where she just wasn't feeling that pull towards her partner. Like actually when he came to the room, she was like pulling away.
Yeah.
But wondering, she was told by a counselor, oh, you should probably have a separation. I'm like, well, how is that going to like help with the relationship in the long run? Surely if you want it to work, you're going to have to work out how to make it work in the relationship. And so she really had a desire for the marriage to work. Like she still knew there was love there. So it was like this desire, but her body was completely not doing, like reacting in the way that was supporting that desire to have the relationship work. And a big part of it for her was this people pleasing, right? So she was constantly overriding what her body wanted. Like she wanted to go for a walk on her own in the morning, but he wanted to come, like, oh, let's go for a walk together. So she would put on her headphones and be on the walk, but not be connected. And so just constantly that little bit of people pleasing rather than being clear, no, I want this time for myself. But later, I would love to have breakfast with you. So in that way, it's like following the life force. It's like allowing the life force to fully bloom and come into like the desire. And so she gets to go for a walk, and then her life force is like fully alive, and her instinct is to go for a walk on her own in the morning and have that time. And then when she tunes into what she wants with her partner, I would love to sit down and connect with you at the start of the day. So that also has life force. So I feel like sometimes it's so simple, and some of the things are much
Oh,
bigger.
simple, huh? Yeah, but it's kind of quite simple, but following it, and what if I hear, right? You
Yeah.
don't follow it, then it's almost like
Yeah.
there's like a shutdown in the body, like something kind of
Yeah.
that's life force, and the opposite is kind of there's just nothing moving, huh?
Yeah. And that builds up over time, and it creates hardening and armoring, and like bit by bit the life force is gone. And she really had lost her joy, like big time,
That's the
and
yeah.
was actually
Force
really
stuff.
struggling. Should I leave my partner? Should I quit my job? Like it gets like, because when the life force is so blocked and has been for a while, you really start to wonder about like running away from everything. But that's not necessarily your highest expression. That's just a like survival response, fight, flight. It's, okay, this is fucking shit. I'm going to do a run.
Yeah, so I wonder, and
Yeah.
so right, if like there are other women, right, that are listening, so what are the steps? What could they do if they really feel that like there's no joy, right? I'm kind of all the to-do list, just doing everything that everyone else wants me, and there's nothing in here for me. What can they
Yeah.
actually do? How can they start on this journey?
Yeah, I mean, it's so much as coming back to that trusting yourself and what you need and what you want, and allowing that life force to give you something. I think everyone actually does already have these instincts. I find that's mostly what I'm doing, is reflecting back to people. You said this. Did you notice that you just said that? Or, if only I could have a little bit of time for myself, or if only. It's amazing if you can just give those things. I think giving those things attention first,
Paying
and letting
attention,
go
huh?
of the big thing, which is like, oh my God, should I stay? Should I go? Getting really caught up in the big decision. I think you need to attend to your own personal self first and come into a place of peace.
That's a big thing. So rather than,
Yeah.
because that's where women go, right, I have to solve my life now. But what I hear you say,
Yeah.
actually, if we
Yeah.
slow it down and pay attention
Yeah.
to actually moment by moment what's there for me, rather than trying to
Yeah.
figure out, because that's figuring out the life is kind of get stuck in the head. But actually, what moment by moment, what do I want? And
Mm.
women do know that, huh? It's not like we don't have it, we do have it. It's more that we don't
Yeah.
pay attention to that.
Yeah. And we don't allow ourselves, don't give permission. I'm thinking
Oh,
now of a lady told me a story once where she
yeah.
was doing some personal growth work, and she just like no longer wanted to cook. She was just like, hey, she just don't want to cook. Like she could cook a soup in the blender or whatever, fine. But anything else, she just had no desire for anymore. And for years, she'd been like forcing herself, I've got to take care of my family. I've got to do this. And bitterness was just building. And somebody just that she was working with just gave her permission. Don't cook. Just don't do it. And her husband every week was like, do you want to cook yet? And she's like, no, not yet. And what about this week? No, not yet. And they all got on okay. They can eat soup. And he stepped up if he wanted to eat something else. And it's like this sort of permission. And through that, then the love can come back together. But otherwise, if you just keep carrying these, like you create bitterness, like you're over giving. It's amazing
Yeah.
how I think these simple things where you just like, you're like, I don't want to do that thing anymore. Or like, I really
Yeah.
want to do this thing. Yeah.
But I guess then the deal, like I hear my women, right? Like women saying, well, actually, but if I don't cook, if I don't clean, then no one is gonna do it. And how are we gonna, like the whole life is gonna collapse. Because I think they said quite a
Yeah.
that lies on the women, and where women feel resentful are kind of taking care of the
Mm.
daily life. And that's where we
Yeah.
shut down ourselves. But it's kind of somehow both need to be done.
Yeah. Like, so how is it going to work? Yeah. So, but then I think that is a different question. It's more like this is creating a real heaviness for me. What do I need? It might be that like this lady, I can only do soup for now. And it's okay, so I'm just gonna do soup. I'm gonna make cooking simple.
This is like you're saying a big thing. So first we actually open up to desires and then we figure out the how piece rather than right away going into the how piece and then we're like, I can't even figure out my desires.
Yeah. Yeah, because you got to have your rant first. I sometimes do quite a fun exercise with people, which I really love because I have a lot of trickster energy in me. Like I have this saying that a friend used to have on their email sign off that I just adored, which was, I don't know the difference between right and wrong, only wrong and fun. So, which I don't know, just like really got me. It's like, oh my God, like what if like there's only a problem between wrong and fun, not like there's no such thing as right and wrong.
That is so good.
Yeah, so I love what I like to do, which is quite fun, is to get yourself a piece of paper and just like write down all the things. Like if you could have anything you want, like completely, wildly, ridiculously, like I want to have 8 people serve me breakfast and massage my feet. Like whatever the hell it is, like just
Gets me.
out there. Yeah. And let yourself be this trickster, playful. Like already we're laughing. It's like it brings a lightness to all this like weight of, God, life feels so heavy. Oh, this is like I'm dragging myself. I'm on the hamster wheel. I'm just going round and round, and this is painful. And I'm dying, and I'm dying. And
it's quite repetitive when it's heavy, and it's kind of like a bit boring. I even like the voice, and I hear women talking.
Yeah, it's like you're getting into this, like you just, yeah, it's like you can feel it straight away. And so starting to play around with being the trickster and just letting yourself like outpour some of these things, it's amazing how that starts to free up the energy. And then the how of like how to actually start to create more alignment does actually often start to drop in, and it would possibly be a bit more playful and rather than a really like boring dead how that feels heavy. Like there might be a bit more creativity that could come in to solve some of these problems. And it won't necessarily be that you get your 8 people to serve you breakfast while massaging you, but maybe you get it once and it just like lights up your whole month. And then for the rest of the month, you're just like in heaven, happy to serve breakfast for your family, whatever the thing is.
This is so beautiful, right? And it's kind of putting that playfulness, attention to our desires. Like I love the trickster piece. It's not, we're not being serious about it. It's not like a very serious matter. I have to sort out my life now and figure out my desires. But it's actually, what if I play with that and just desire whatever and go overboard with it? Doesn't mean that it needs to happen. But then that how, if we put that playfulness, because that's quite often I see we get stuck going into the how, and then it's like, well, I don't know how, so I'm not even going to open up to desires. But actually it does somehow, like we can work it out. It's not as difficult. It's not as heavy. Yeah.
And like, it's not such a big thing. Like we get so worried about other people's emotions and feelings. Like this client, where she's like so worried about saying to her husband, I want to have a walk on my own. It's like, he is a grown up. He is an adult. He will be okay. Like,
what because that's a big piece, right? Like what I like hear my women, like they also go like, yeah, but I don't want to hurt others, so like they can't, which it's not quite the true story, right? It's not, no. It's not. So what can you kind of, if you talk about that?
Well, I'd like to know your opinion on this too, but how I see it is actually sometimes we're afraid of rocking the boat and like what might happen emotionally, like in them. So we're actually more afraid of how it's going to feel for us to tell them than we are really concerned about their feelings. Like it's more like, I'm scared to open my mouth because I don't know if I have the capacity to hold the space or to reaction, like I might be like, you're actually more scared of their reaction than you are really scared about, like worried about their feelings. I think that is honestly a lot of the time the truth, because like who wants to create a space where it's like kind of average when you could really create something that feels like that hell yes space where it's really like you're both fully on board. It just feels energetically so much more like amazing. Like if you're giving somebody a massage and you're massaging their feet and they love, like it's like the place of their body that is just like heaven, and they're like making these sounds of appreciation, and they're just like having the most amazing massage, versus maybe you start to like massage their shoulders and the pressure isn't how they like it, and they're like sort of like grateful but they don't really love it. It just doesn't have, no one really gets the pleasure.
That no
So
one gets
the
the pleasure.
idea, yeah, so the idea of like tolerating things to protect somebody else's feelings is actually really a disservice to both of you.
Yeah. Well, I guess I talk about it in terms of like I've got the, when I do my body blueprints, there's the pleaser blueprint. And
Yeah,
it's almost like, and I know it's kind of harsh a bit. I don't know if it's harsh, but it's that it's kind of when we please, it's our passive manipulation. We kind of want to get the love and affection. So we think if I actually please you and I do that for you, then you're gonna love me and provide for me or do whatever I need. But
yeah,
we do it. And then when the resentment comes up, because that's the sign of me that actually when I was giving, it wasn't because I love you and because it brings me joy, but actually
yeah,
now I feel like I expect something of you. And that resentment
yeah,
is actually quite telling that it wasn't from the pure heart. But then the resentment really kind of brings that life force, like,
yeah.
yeah, and there's
It's
a
interesting.
manipulation
Yeah,
aspect to that, which is
yeah,
not easy for the pleasers in us to hear.
yeah, yeah. And it's interesting because your training and background is more like with the therapies that you use, so you're looking more from this that lens, which is super interesting to me, and I see it more from like the body lens and the
Mm,
capacity of the nervous system. So it's like that both together, that yeah, like you want something and also you are afraid of like the energy that's
mm,
going to be created
mm,
in that moment, and it's like the nervous system and the body is like tensing around doing this thing. It's like standing on the edge of a cliff and you're like, should I jump, should I not? And you're like, I'll just walk back from the edge, rather than just like being brave and like putting yourself in there and having the conversation and just seeing. And it's like so life force giving. It can just
mm.
completely change relationships.
Yeah, but it's like it's now I'm like sitting with it's that fear is so intense, and I've just been going through a period where I got hurt in my family, right, by my father, and I was like, I really need to speak to that. But then my mind goes like, well, I don't want to hurt the feelings. I think he might not be able to take it. And when I actually
Mm,
sat with myself, I was like, I'm actually terrified how I'm gonna handle it and how I'm going to
yeah,
handle his reaction. So trying to protect them is kind of, it's quite on a surface level, but deep inside, it's like, whoa, that terror is so
protecting yourself.
intense. So I wonder
Yeah,
what
yeah.
can you talk kind of, what can you say about that when it's like, I want to speak up, but the terror is almost like, whoa, I don't know if I
Mm.
can. Like what
Yeah,
kind
it's like, how do you create safety? You know,
of,
how can you make it feel safer for you
mm,
ultimately? And like, what is the conversation that you have first? Or like, how do you feel more supported and resourced in that moment when you're having that conversation? Or I guess every situation is different. Like with your father, there could be different support, if you had somebody else there with you, or like where you have the conversation where you might feel like it's a safer space for you to be in, somewhere that you naturally feel more relaxed.
so to actually create the safety for yourself, not kind of jump off
Yeah,
the cliff, but actually
yeah,
give like a balloon or something, right? To catch.
yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah, you want to be like loving as possible. And it's also like we can stay, as we are. Like, so I've got moving my hands, people that are listening to the audio here, but we can stay as, those kids' toys that have, like, when you bring them together, they're small, and then when you expand them out, they become this like big ball, and they have this like,
Yeah.
and then this big ball, I think they're made out of some, not like a Lego, but like this
At the
plastic
stretch, yeah, yeah.
kind of stretchy thing. Yeah. So we can stay like this, the ball in the middle is like us as we are, and we can somehow lovingly, we to expand into the fullness of our expression, we want to like take ourselves like towards that edge, but and work with like going a little bit more like a little bit more scary, like a little like step. But if you go straight out like over the edge, you get overwhelmed, and then it's
Mm.
just too much, and it's like chaos and shut down. And
So that's an impact,
also, yeah,
making the kind of more the little step rather than actually I'm gonna jump off that cliff because
yeah.
that as well.
So it's like choosing the thing, like if you really kept quiet about things in your relationship for a really long time, it's like, well, what is like one thing that I could start to open up about?
That's
And
beautiful.
like,
And what is kind of the one, the safest, kind of the easiest thing?
yeah,
Test it out and try it out.
yeah, yeah. And then you do it and you're like, it's okay, I'm okay. I didn't die. We're still together. It didn't end. Oh, wow.
I can do that. Yeah.
And then you have a big breath out and you're like, oh, I could do that. And then you could start to, start to slowly have more conversations. And then over time, it becomes more natural to share how you feel.
Yeah, I guess it's like children, right? When they start, first they sit, then they crawl, right? Then they take little steps, then they start running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is really around communication too, isn't it? It's like telling somebody what to do or what not to do is very different from expressing how you feel or like your desire. I really desire to have a bath on my own and just light some candles and music. Can you give me the space to do that? Like, it's very different to don't come to the bathroom for the next hour, or don't come for a walk with me. It's very different that than the energy of like sharing how you feel. And like, I really have this desire to have this moment. It's going to really support me in my day and it just really will fill me up, and sharing that is different.
And that's a because I had a session with my women, with my group of women yesterday, and we were really talking about the longings and the desires. And then when they could really drop into it, there was just so much pleasure in even just feeling the desire. Like nothing was there yet, but they had so much, and they were so just open. And they said it was like we were having this delicious dessert together, just sharing our desires. And I was like, wow, but this heart openness and dropping rather than the to-do list, the laundry list for my partner, right? This is what you need to do for me. But actually, what a different sense. I wonder, like, if you can say, like,
I love that. I love that you said
huh?
that, like having a dessert together, because I think that is like when you bring that is like bringing a dessert to your partner, that is so different than a to-do list. Like bringing your pleasure and your dessert, you're like sharing your dessert and you're letting them have a little flavor, a little taste of it.
And so looking at you again, I just so women get that, but now as you speak,
Yeah.
right, it's kind of coming more from the belly, right, from our from the body
From your
rather than from the
sex,
head.
from your body, from your belly, for your breasts, like everything is more like awake and
Moving,
alive.
flowing,
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
that's the fear women
definitely.
have. If I share it, my partner is gonna feel like, well, this is too much, and they feel then the rejection. The women feel rejection.
Yeah.
That's what women are afraid of.
Very
Feeling
vulnerable.
rejection.
Yeah. It is vulnerable sharing from
It
our
is.
heart
It is,
and
huh?
from our truth. Yeah, it is. It's so vulnerable. But ultimately, you are the one who chooses how you want it to have a relationship. And if you want a relationship that feels connected, then it takes vulnerability. So I think it's like choosing like what is it that I really want? Like, do I want connection? Do I want that flow of energy? And then it's like, well, here we go. I mean, I speak to that. It's quite like connected. And for me, because in my previous, now been with my partner for 10 years, but prior to that, I was married. And that relationship, I always held back what was on my heart, partly because he had a big temper and I felt like I was walking on eggshells a lot. So I think I like didn't feel safe. But ultimately what started happening is it actually killed the relationship because my heart just closed off and off and off. So when it ended, it was already dead. So, and when I met my current partner a few years later, I made a commitment to always share what was on my heart, like to be honest. And it was really hard. Like I remember one time, the first time that something came up that it felt like, okay, this is something I need to talk about. I think it was something around like other women in his life, and just we needed to create some safety and containers around like him having lunch dates with female friends. And I just wanted to know where we were at with all of that, what was the energy that he was bringing to these meetings. And I didn't feel safe. It was like this, like, oh, I don't know what's going on here. And so I had to have this conversation, and it was hard. It was so hard. I'm even getting talking about it because it felt like a really courageous thing to do. But I'd made that commitment to always share what was on my heart because I knew if I didn't, it killed a relationship. And I was like, well, I don't want to kill this. Amazing. It felt like the most right that I'd ever felt with a partner, and I was like, I do not want to kill this. So that is something that I committed to doing, is to sharing what was on my heart, things that were important for us that I would always share.
So it's so the intention, right? It's kind of the intention is not to share and just put something on your partner, but actually in service of the connection, in service of love, of that aliveness in the relationship inside yourself.
Yeah.
which
Yeah,
makes a difference.
in service to staying open. It's like, if this is shutting off my life force and doing something to our connection, then
It's
this
not
isn't what
worth
I'm
it.
here
Not
for.
worth
It's like, yeah. And I think that's that people pleaser, or like thinking we're doing it to help others. It's like, yeah, is this in service to deep connection or
Yeah.
to being open? Am I having to armor myself just to, like, is there a hardening
Yeah.
happening?
That's a big
Yeah.
piece. So to actually check in with the intention. Intention is to actually create more connection. Then you
Yeah.
kind of need to find the courage and go forward with that.
Yeah. It is. And it takes courage.
It does. Tell me. But yeah. And I wonder, just one last
Yeah.
question, Nina. We can talk and talk. It's so nice.
Yeah.
But
It's
there's
nice.
one question because I just had the session yesterday and it's been alive, like in women. There's this piece where women open up their hearts and their partner is not quite receiving it in the way they want, and they kind of get hurt. And then what women do, they close their hearts and their bodies and they kind of justify it's like, well, because he didn't do the right thing. And just wonder, what can you say about that? It's like,
Well, just
yeah.
like first feeling that, it's like, oh, so vulnerable, isn't it? To open up your heart and to share and then have it shut down. And I think we all do it to our partners at different times. What was happening in that moment? Like, were they in full presence, or did you just like share something without creating the environment for it to be properly heard? Because I think sometimes that can happen. It can be a big thing to say, so you like say something, you finally get it out and it's not received, but maybe because you didn't say, hey, when would be a good time, I would like to talk to you about something, when would be a good time for you, and then you're actually calling in presence into the moment. That's definitely something that I think would happen a lot. I mean, I've even done that with my partner. He's like blurted something out, while I'm driving and I don't have a presence and I just don't respond in the way that he would like me to be there for him either. So I think it can go both ways, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then what would you say, right, when it happened? And then, because what I see women do, they kind of shut down and they say, well, he can't receive me, so I'm not going to even try again. That's why I see like, it's kind of painful for both.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like, well, how can you create the environment? Like, was there something else? I would always try that first, like getting curious about like what was actually going on. Because ultimately we want to love each other. Like, I don't believe that people are not wanting that. Like, who doesn't want their partner to open to them and share their heart and soul with them? And
yeah, it's
like,
beautiful, huh? That like at the base of it, we all want to love and be loved. We kind of
yeah,
have to keep it in mind.
it's such a core thing being a human. So I think it's about like working it out. I think it's about like trying things like, okay, so what environment could I create, a different environment, so that I might actually have the space where this, it's like the amazing dinner you're going to have, and you might get dressed and you have a bath beforehand, or this like preparation. It's like, if you're really sharing something that's important, then giving it the respect and honor and the space to share it, to have that conversation, I think is really important. And then it's like, well, if they didn't respond, were you clear with them what kind of response you were looking for? Like, if they, quite often the male brain wants to go into problem solving, and maybe you didn't, if that's not what you wanted, did you tell them that what it was that you did want, or did you just get frustrated that they didn't give you what you wanted? It's like, we can't be mind readers. And yeah, and I think if we're remembering that, like, we do want love and connection,
Well,
but it's not
sometimes humans do make mistakes, right? We can't reach
innate.
other. Like it
Yeah,
does happen, but I think it's
so
that
much.
intention, kind of the intention, the goodness of it. And I mean, yeah, so I know I've
Yeah,
met plenty of people with my sometimes awkward communication. It happens.
yeah, we screw it up.
We're speaking about the trends and giving each other another,
Yeah,
it's kind of starting, I don't know, kind
yeah,
of starting again, or like opening up again and
yeah,
trying again, rather than like, nah, and I'm not gonna go there.
yeah, because that's basically saying it's over, isn't it?
That's saying it's over, yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, if are you really want to do that, or is it
Yeah.
more like your inner child is having a bit of a tantrum and it's actually wants something else, which is actually to be seen and heard and loved and understood. And it's like, yeah, because I was thinking of something else then around that. Ultimately being loved and creating creating the space. Yeah, there's definitely something around like being clear with each other about what it is that you're looking for, isn't there? You know, in terms of when you're sharing something, it's like I really want to share this thing, and it's been something that's really hard for me, and I just want you to tell me it's all okay and give me a hug. I just need to be held. This is just like big. Can you do that for me?
Yes,
Or like,
setting
can
yourself
you
up
help
for
me solve this
success.
problem is like different, or
Mm.
like I've got this thing that's going on, like I really would like to work together with you to try and find a way through together. Or like it's very like there's lots of different things that you might want from sharing with somebody.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you, Nina. It's been a nice, really nice conversation. And I wonder if you can tell a little bit about what you are up to and how people can find you, so they can get into your world of the wildly divine and orgasmic life.
Yes, we didn't even get to the divine or the orgasmic.
That's for next episodes. It'll be divine.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so you can get into my world through my website that or social media as tends to be where you can find me. And also at the moment I'm
So what is the website?
launching so my website is ninapowell.com. So simple. And actually at the moment I'm really excited because I'm creating something that is going to be in person in Wanaka, but is also going to end up being online and experience too, which is this beautiful practice that really helps you to tap back into your power and realignment in your own body and energetic system and activate sensuality. So it's a breathwork-based practice. It's a shape-shifting practice. It's like rooted in ancient traditions all around the world. Like I found all this evidence, something that I have developed over time through my own practice. And I'm going to be creating a membership where we're going to be doing these practices and really diving into this activation of who you are. One of the places that I found a very similar practice is actually a tribe in the desert, and they talk about this practice called I Kung, which sounds like so similar to what I've been working with for years. And one of the people there was saying, well, I need to dance again because I need to become myself again. And it's this thing. Yeah. So they do this practice to become yourself again. And yeah, I'm opening up this journey for women to join. So I would, yeah, if anyone would like to find out more about that, please do reach out, and I would love to have you with us. And there'll be some traveling around New Zealand live experiences as well as the online things. So
in Auckland.
yes, definitely. I'm definitely going to come up. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you so much.
It's so good. Yeah, to all the listeners, and I'll put the links in the show notes, but you can find Nina Powell and it's double L.com. And yeah, I'll see you.